Greetings to all. We delving deeply into one of the most significant developments in XRP's history, and to be honest, in the entire cryptocurrency industry. Amendment XS4-D, also referred to as the escrow burn, was just authorized by the XRP validator network. First, let's set the scene for why this is so important. With its lightning-fast transaction speeds and incredibly cheap fees, XRP has long been hailed as a bridge asset for cross-border payments. But up until today, investors had persistent worries about the supply dynamics, particularly the effect of escrow releases. To avoid market flooding and to ensure predictability, Ripple Labs had put about 55 billion XRP in escrow. However, there was always a chance that rising supply would stifle price growth as escrow releases unlocked more XRP each month. That paradigm drastically changes with the escrow burn amendment's adoption. These escrowed currencies will now be destroyed rather than merely being released onto the market as XRP. This is a direct assault on inflationary pressure within the XRP ecosystem and a move toward actual scarcity, not merely a token gesture. Since this occurrence is transparent and verifiable, let's now discuss the code that underpins this amendment. Global XRP validators, independent servers that uphold the consensus and integrity of the XRP ledger, received, examined, and thoroughly tested the change. The amendment XS4-D, which describes the precise instructions for the burn process, is available on GitHub, the official repository for the XRP protocol code. The destination tag set to an unclaimable address is the crucial element in this case. In other words, there is no private key to retrieve or spend the coins once they are transmitted there. This renders the burn irreversible and verifiable, making it available for audit by anybody using the ledger's transaction history. This is important because it removes any uncertainty regarding the validity or durability of the burn. This burn is hard-coded into XRP's consensus rules and enforced by the validator network, in contrast to certain previous burns in the crypto realm that depended on trust or third-party confirmation. This update transforms XRP's inflation model into one of hyper-deflation from an economic standpoint. What does that signify? Because to monthly escrow releases, the amount of XRP in circulation was either steady or increasing slowly for years. Financially speaking, inflation is the phrase used to describe a currency's growing supply, which often tends to lower value if demand cannot keep up. On the other hand, deflation happens when supply gradually declines, creating scarcity and raising asset values, assuming that demand either stays the same or increases. Every escrow release that would have previously raised supply will now be burnt as a result of this adjustment. This has a compounding effect of reducing supply when combined with XRP's current transaction burn feature, which destroys a small portion of XRP with each transaction. The end effect is a hyper-deflationary situation in which the overall supply of XRP gradually declines, pushing the price upwards. Therefore, in order to provide you with a potentially useful analogy, let's attempt to comprehend the scope and significance of this supply shock by examining the Bitcoin halving events. As you can see, Bitcoin halvings cut the supply inflation rate in half by reducing the block reward that miners receive around every 4 years. And traditionally, these huge price increases that are primarily caused by greater scarcity have followed each halving. In contrast, XRP's new burn mechanism functions as a continual and increasing reduction in supply rather than a halved every few years. For a moment, picture a Bitcoin halving that occurs once a month for the next 10 years or more. This deflationary pressure is actually on that scale. The quantity of XRP tokens that are available for trading and holding will steadily and predictably decline in the market. Since it is ingrained in the core functions of the ledger and continues endlessly, this is actually possibly even more potent than Bitcoin's halving events. The fact that this burn is permanent is among the most crucial things to comprehend in this situation. In contrast to those one-time token burns or repurchase initiatives, which occur somewhat erratically and may be undone or even stopped, the escrow burn amendment is a fundamental component of the XRP protocol. It simply cannot be undone until the majority of validators agree. Furthermore, it is quite improbable that this modification will be reversed given its overwhelmingly positive reception. In actuality, this implies that as the burn goes on, there will be fewer XRP coins available, and as user, institutional, and even governmental demand increases, the price will only rise. Therefore, this is a very important indication for both holders and potential investors. Due to the fact that scarcity will only grow over time, now is the ideal time to start collecting XRP. The effect this will have on liquidity and general market dynamics must also be discussed. Burning 10 billion XRP may cause short-term instability or possibly liquidity shortages, according to some people. However, the market will gradually adjust to these changes because the burn is a part of a managed release process in which escrow releases are spaced out on a monthly basis. In addition, verifiability and transparency in this case actually lower uncertainty, which has historically supported more stable price discovery. Clear data on supply reductions will be available to exchanges, market makers, and institutional players, enabling them to modify their strategy as necessary. With less inflationary pressure and increased confidence from long-term investors, this might eventually result in a stronger, more sustainable market for XRP. What does this strategically signify now? XRP is already gaining traction with banks, payment companies, and even governments after positioning itself as a bridge asset for cross-border transfers. The transition to a deflationary paradigm greatly increases XRP's attractiveness as an investment and, to be honest, fits with the larger story of digital assets changing from speculative tokens to important strategic infrastructure elements. A crucial layer of financial incentive is added for holders, institutions, and network players by the burn mechanism. It promotes long-term holding, shows faith in XRP's future, and aids in the expansion and well-being of the network. From the perspective of market psychology, this amendment and the upcoming burn provide a compelling story that might draw in new investors to XRP. Interest is fueled by scarcity, and price increases brought on by supply shocks typically draw in institutional and retail purchasers seeking assets with solid fundamentals. Furthermore, the deflationary supply model will distinguish XRP apart from other digital assets that continue to be inflationary as it becomes more widely used through actual use cases and government support. May have patterns of supply that are unclear. Of course, there are questions and obstacles with every shift. Investors will be interested in how markets react to the initial burn and how exchanges manage fluctuations in the circulating supply. To stay up to date on all the most recent XRP developments, remember to subscribe and click the notification bell. In the meantime, continue to learn, make prudent investments, and keep an eye on the XRP ledger as it records its most thrilling chapter to yet. Please keep in mind that I do not hold a financial advisor license. These videos only contain content that is meant to be entertaining. Before making any financial decisions, I always advise viewers to do their own research and speak with experts. Many thanks for listening. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Additionally, to be the first to know when I post new stuff, make sure you enable the alerts. I can't wait to see you again in the next video. Be careful.